Oh, what's up? Welcome back to Toa TV. I know I've been gone for a while. Honestly, I don't have any proper excuse. I just been focused on other things, I guess, college and stuff. But I am back, and today I'm going to talk about the best soccer team in the world. Not the best yet, but the biggest club in the world, Manchester United. Um, and what I think is going to happen once we start up again the rest of the season. Starting in our game against Wolves, moving forward. Um, yeah, I'm also just going to talk about, for Ten Hag, for me personally, what needs to happen, what he needs to accomplish for him to keep the job. I haven't really talked about Manchester United with you guys much since, I haven't been making videos. But I've always been very pro Ten Hag. Like, I think he's class. I've been defending him all throughout this entire time because last year he proved that he was him. I mean, frankly, first season after United's like worst season ever in the Premier League, um, he comes in first year. He's making big decisions. He's disciplining people. You know, Rashford was late. I think that was against Wolves, funnily enough. Might not have been, but I think it was against Wolves. And he was dropped. And then he did get substituted on that game, but that just showed him. Garnacho, he was late to a couple team meetings or something, I think, in preseason. Didn't feature in preseason. You know, Ronaldo, forced out of the club. He set a precedent that he he was gonna discipline people no matter what, and that if you were not gonna be disciplined, then it's time to go. And he beat every top six club first year, and he beat Barcelona in the Europa League. He finished third in the Premier League, qualified for Champions League, first year, um, with Wout Weghorst at striker at times. Wout Weghorst, the Ronaldo saga, so many distractions. Um, yeah, still finished third in the Premier League. I think semis of the Europa League, won the Carabao Cup, and got to the final of the FA Cup. Um, that's a very successful season. Played so many. We're in all comps for so much of the season, which is why I think we dealt with so many injuries the first half of this year. People don't want to talk about that though. But yeah, I've been strongly pro Ten Hag because I feel like he's shown with his pieces, um, that you know he he's gonna get the job done at the end of the day, as long as people are following the instructions, the tactics. Then he he has proven that he will deliver results. But now getting into this season, you know, right from the beginning of this season, there were problems because simply there were injuries, and yeah, there were injuries. Um, like Sandro Martinez was out. In my opinion, Manchester United's best player, one of the top three, at least top five center backs in the Premier League. Nobody matches him on the ball. And we saw the other day when he came back in this 20-minute cameo, already he megged Brennan Johnson. You know, we looked very different for Spurs when he was off and on the pitch. And also, people forget in the beginning of the season, we weren't even that bad. We had a difficult schedule. We played Spurs, turned out to be really good. We could have won that game. Bruno had a clear header, a 6 yard box, right in front of the net. Misses, completely off the mark. If he puts that in, I'm putting that in. Anybody else is putting that in. If he puts that in, we win that game. We dominated the first half. We just didn't score. The second half, they score. Boom. But this season was looking so promising based off preseason. But Kobe Mainu gets injured. I was telling my friends about Kobe Mainu, and they were laughing at me, telling me like, "Oh, like what is an 18-year-old gonna do?" But we've seen he's class. Every game that he's played, best midfielder on the pitch, except Spurs. Spurs, I feel like he had been a bit of an off game, but even in that game, he was still good. And that just shows that he's going to be a worldie for years to come. Um, but yeah, we got, we were missing Manu. He got injured. Diallo got injured. And then Mount, Mount just kept picking up injuries. So he played like a little bit, but we still hadn't figured out our midfield. And Ericsson got injured for a long time. Ericsson, as a sub, I feel like he changes the game. He was a crucial player for us last year. I feel like against the smaller teams, weaker teams, who don't press as much, I think Ericsson can start, but I like him off the bench. I think now Mainu has got to be above him, and maybe even and probably Mount. But Mount just hasn't been playing. I don't even know. I guess it's maybe a hamstring now, like. But he's supposed to be back soon. Hopefully he's back for Wolves. Probably won't feature, but at least hopefully he'll be available. Um, but yeah, we just and then Casemiro gets injured, our second best player last year, in my opinion. You know, you lose your two best players, the spine of your team. It's just not. It's not going to work for you, especially when Casemiro. I mean, when Varane was also injured at various points, and just had fallen out with the team, with the coach, I guess, with Ten Hag. We brought Johnny Evans in, and Johnny Evans was the signing of the summer. He, yeah, so I guess thus far he's been the signing of the summer. He he's just been everything that we could have wanted. But I don't know. Like that's not, you know, our center back partnership last year was very strong. We want Martinez and Varane. I thought last year basically the best center back partnership in the Prem. And but you know, Evans and Maguire was good, But then Maguire also gets injured. And like we just you can't compete. And then, the whole Sancho drama, that must have been another plague. Rashford was getting injured a lot. People don't talk about it. Rashford this season has gotten injured a lot, has had to play on the right a lot because Garnacho has now integrated himself into, the first 11. Um, he found himself on the right a lot, and it's just not as good there. He didn't seem to be putting in as much effort, but now he's back on the left and he's shining again. He's firing. And then Anthony, the whole Anthony drama. Our right wing was just, it wasn't there. And then up top, Hoyland, he was injured to start off the season. We couldn't even, integrate him when everybody else was there. That he was what was missing. And then when he got there, everything else, the midfield, the back line was missing. And that also hasn't helped Onana, who I think is class. I mean, I'm Cameroonian, as you can see the flag back there. So I am biased, but I think he's gonna show soon that he's a top 3 goalkeeper in the world. I mean, we saw it last year at Inter, and yeah, he's top 3 keeper in the world in my opinion. He's gonna show that. But and you can see that with the difference in XG expected versus what he's actually allowed. It's still very, very, very good, even though it doesn't seem like it. In the Prem, he's been great. And yet, I think he's joint second most clean sheets. So, I don't know. People want to hate on him. In the Champions League, he wasn't great, but give him some time. He's new. No Martinez. We couldn't really build. We were always having to change the way we build up because different personnel constantly. That's not going to help our patterns of play. Maybe that's why we're struggling to see patterns of play, you know? But because I feel like last year we were developing patterns of play. We didn't have the striker, and we just didn't have the winger. We also Luke Shaw. We haven't had Luke Shaw basically this entire season. One of our best players, a big source of our attacking output. He's one of the only players on our team who can cross. I mean, Rashford can cross, but sometimes he dribbles too much. Garnacho can cross. Anthony can't cross. So it's just Luke Shaw too. We just been missing so many people. So now, going into what I think is going to happen going forward, I expect United to finish top 4 and go far in the FA Cup. Because hear me out. With Martinez and Casemiro and Varane, we're just defensively solid. We're just not really going to get scored on because they know what they're doing. They're elite. They're world class. They've it's a World Cup winning center back partnership. And then Casemiro, Champions League, Mr. Champions League. Like, what else do we have to say? I mean, the names just speak for themselves, but let me just go into it anyways. Obviously, we're just going to be tremendously better because Casemiro, he just cleans everything up before it even is a threat. And then, Martinez and Varane, it's it's just mint. It's just mint. What else is there to say? I mean, so I just think just based off the fact we're going to be way more defensively solid, then we can see if we want to play double pivot. I see Mainu, Casemiro. I think that's just going to work wonders. We never really got to see it because again, Mainu got injured so early, but Mainu was doing the single pivot role himself at 18 with two, with Bruno and Eriksson in front of him who never tracked back, which is why we always, or who never marked the runners or tracked the runners. That's why we always concede so many goals off cutbacks. But yeah, he was doing that job by himself and he was doing it amazingly well. And I feel like you put Casemiro with him, Casemiro's gonna help him defensively so much. His level of responsibility is gonna lessen, and he's gonna still produce on that end, but he's gonna have way more attacking output, and he's gonna help Casemiro because he's gonna be able to receive the ball with his back turned. He's gonna always make himself available, always make himself an option, make it easy for Casemiro. And then Casemiro could get up and be kind of what we see with McTominay running in. That could be Casemiro. And then Mainu, will see him as an actual 8 being progressive, which is what I think his actual role is, or his ultimate potential. And I think, he's going to be a great, what else is there to say? So there's that. And if not for Mainu, because Mainu, he's still young, even though I think he's already one of our best players. I mean, this season he's at least, he's probably a top 3 player in our team this season thus far. But Mount is also there. Mount can also play in that position. I think Ten Hag's plan originally coming into the season was a 4-3-3 with, Casemiro, Mount, and Bruno. And we saw that. We saw it against Spurs at the beginning of the season. And again, we were dominating that game. We looked very strong. I think, the pressing was just elite. Casemiro was cleaning everything else up. We were on the front foot. It was a great team. I think Mount, as that other 8 there, to come in for Manu when he's not playing, they're going to push each other. And then Mount can also fill in for Bruno because Bruno, even though he almost never gets injured, it's amazing, and he plays every minute, Bruno can't continue to do that. I feel like that's why sometimes his game suffers because, he's only human. You're going to get fatigued eventually. He plays so many more minutes than anybody else. I forgot what the stat was. I think it was like last year he played like 200 more minutes than anybody else or something like that. It was crazy. But you're only going to get fatigued eventually. And I think that's why sometimes his performance suffers. Mount can also play, at the 10. But he can also play on the right. Now, I don't think we really need it anymore, but I wanted to see that earlier in the season, and Ten Hag wasn't really opting for it, and I don't know. I think we could have benefited from that. But now, Garnacho has started playing there, and he's been great. I think with Garnacho now and Diallo there, I think we're actually looking good in the right wing. And Anthony having that competition, I think that's only going to make him play better. So I feel like on the right wing were good, and then Rashford on the left, his form has been up again. We've seen last 4 games, 2 goals, 2 assists. He's been doing his thing, and I, it's only a matter of time before he's scoring goals again and again and again. I feel like same with Garnacho, also been a top 3 player for us this season. And on the right wing, he actually crosses the ball. In the last against Spurs, I saw him cross the ball a lot to Højlund. Højlund was finally getting some service. And that's why Højlund, too, his form the past couple of games has been up. He scored 2 goals in the Premier League, got an assist. Now he's our leading goal scorer this season in all competitions. He's class, I think. And as once we start getting him more and more service, which I think is going to be able to happen, as now we're going to be more defensively solid and more progressive minded, as Mane will be able to, be looking forward, or Mount, and then the right wing starting to sort itself out. We're only going to be stronger attacking. And yeah. So I think Højlund is going to score. Honestly, let me just say 12 goals, Højlund, in the Premier League this year. So that means he'll score 10 more. Boom. Bucket. I said it. So, yeah, I think for those reasons, I personally believe we're going to finish top 4. I think we probably finish 4 because I think it's going to be Liverpool. I've called Liverpool winning the Prem since September. My roommate could vouch for that. He's not here right now. Or some of my other friends could vouch for that too. But I called that from literally September. It might have been August actually, but at least September. And I have Liverpool, City, Arsenal, then us. I think Villa are going to drop off a little bit. And I just think we're going to be so strong. I think Villa drop off, Spurs drop off a little bit without Son. But they've been good. I just don't think they'll be us, even though, they've had injuries too. I just think we've had the most dire injury situation. I feel like we're going to see that moving forward. But yeah, I think, what I just thought about too, I think Casemiro, whenever he comes back, he's always initially not that sharp. I feel like what we may see is Manu, Mount, Bruno, which is honestly what I want to see. I think that's the most progressive. Sometimes Casemiro be not too good on the ball, a little bit wasteful, doesn't really scan sometimes, can get caught from behind. So I think that we're scoring even more goals with that. But where was I? Yeah, I don't know. I think we're gonna start winning a lot of games. So I think we just beat those other teams out. Who else? Who else are we beating out? Definitely Chelsea. Even though I think they're going to be really good too. Trust the process with Pochettino. They just have had so many injuries as well. And, new manager, bunch of new players. It's going to take time. But what I will say for Ten Hag, even though I've been pro Ten Hag, unless he's top four this year or wins the FA Cup. Oh, because another reason why I believe we're going to be so strong in the second half of the season is because last year we were winning all these games with all these competitions. Now we only have the FA Cup, which isn't even that frequent, and the Premier League to worry about. So I think if all of our attention is going to be on the Premier League, like we're going to finish top four. We're going to be fresh. We're going to have legs, and that's something that we haven't had. But if Ten Hag doesn't finish top four or win the FA Cup, I'm probably going to have to beat Ten Hag out because I don't know. I just feel like I feel like the Sancho thing was kind of shady. Like, I don't know. Was he actually training bad? Was he really training poorly? You have to did this have to become what it was? Should he have not been starting over Anthony? So I think he proved in the preseason. He should have. He definitely deserved some minutes, and Anthony hadn't proven anything. He was playing bad. You're gonna get frustrated at some point. So I don't really like that. I think there's been a little bit of the Varane. I don't know. I don't know what the whole thing was with Varane too, but I didn't really like that. But you know, I'm trusting in him, and because of what he's done. But again, if he doesn't do those two things, then it's just like I'm probably gonna have to beat Ten Hag out because there's just been a lot of things, you know. This McTominay thing also. Oh my gosh, the injuries that we've had has forced McTominay to because he was the only one who could score, who was scoring, because he does that every couple games, and he just keeps buying himself time. But McTominay, I don't want to see McTominay is the reason we lost so many of those games because he offered nothing. Every time he got the ball, he'd lose it. He would miss so many chances. He'd get in Hoyland's, he'd interfere with Hoyland's space, and then he was just wasteful. And he wouldn't track back, wouldn't track the runners. It was just awful. Um, but yeah, Ten Hag kept sticking with him, and honestly, in the beginning, I couldn't blame him because you know he was scoring, nobody else was scoring. You got to do something. He has to get results. That's the other thing. I think Ten Hag. People say we haven't been able to see an identity. We have never been fully. We've never really been healthy throughout all Ten Hag's era. So he just and the squad's just been poor at certain times. Like last year, just no striker. So he just had to do what he could to get results at times. But now I feel like we're gonna start to see an identity. But I don't know. Yeah, if he doesn't do those two things, one of those two things, I think I'm gonna have to beat Ten Hag out. Um, but you guys should tell me in the comments what you think. You know, I think, but I say give him another year though. I'm gonna like low key beat Ten Hag out, but I feel like this year there was just too much, way too much for anybody to deal with. You know, so. But I think he's a resilient one. And I think now we're getting in, we got Barada in. We're starting to bring in good people with, Ratcliffe's new influence in the club. But so yeah, I think we're gonna get better signings too. Gonna do our business better. Not gonna get fleeced all the time. So I think give Ten Hag another year. I think next year we start, you know, I think we're gonna get a center back in this summer, maybe another striker, and I feel like we need another midfielder. I can't. I don't know the profile yet. We need another 6/8, I guess, just for depth purposes. I think, yeah. And then who knows? Sancho might be back. Sancho might be back, and Greenwood might be back. Next year, we're just going to be a problem. So I think next year we is when we actually start pushing for titles for Prem, because I don't know. I think that's enough time for Ten Hag. I think that's when you would expect to start seeing some results. I think people are going to think that's a little bit crazy, call me crazy, but time will tell. But yeah, drop in the comments what you think about that prediction of United making top four. I know people probably think that's ludicrous, but I think we're going to see. We're going to start getting so many points. It's going to be crazy. And then people are going to look at the table at the end of the year and say, wow, United finished only like 12 points behind City, but finished top four. So we'll see. Time will tell. But it's good to be back. Hope to make more content more frequently moving forward, but I don't know. No promises.